Hi folks, this is Karim Rao for IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our Lambda Matrix Labs, the video number 83. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We are still working with the GPO ZOR report, and we are currently discussing the tab which is called Group Policy Links. Okay, this is a report that will get the group policy, the domain that this group policy is created, and the GUID of the group policy. It is linked or not, and link counts is 2, so it's linked to 2 locations. Okay, and the link count enabled, so if there is disabled it will get you the disabled one. So links disabled count there is no. So this group policy is linked to 2 locations. Okay, and the 2 locations the link is enabled, not disabled. Link cross domain, if this is linked to another domain in another forest maybe. Okay, link root true. I think this is link root. I don't think it is linked to okay, so this is linked to the domain domain level. I think so it's linked root. Maybe he's asking about linked to the domain level, linked site. So I think this is linked to the domain, so it is linked to the domain and linked to the OU. I don't think it is not logic to have it linked to the domain and then link it to the OU anyway. So it is linked to the domain level and then link it to the OU level. Linked root places, so it is linked to the domain level and it is linked to, so this is a good assumption. Now it is linked to the domain and linked to a certain OU, so we have it both linked in 2 locations. This can be a little bit tricky. We need to remove it from the OU because it is linked in or on the domain level. Okay, so we can go further and see also another group policy. It is linked to one OU. Okay, or I think it is linked to the root domain, so it is linked to the root domain. It is not linked to any OU, so this is correct. A very useful one, by the way. It gets you the linked group policies to linked group policies, the name of the group policy, and it is linked how much links, but and where is the location of the link. If it is in the domain or in the OU, it is linked across domains, other domains in the same forest or other domains in other forests. Okay, we can see very good. uh, I think this is can be a good inventory. If we go further, it will give you okay, for example, this group policy, it is linked to 4 OUs. We can see here that we have each OU that it is linked to. This is very good one. We can have it as an inventory to our linked group policies. For example, if here we can see if there is a group policy that is not linked, so we can get it from I don't think so. This is it should be linked, but if the link is disabled, we can get it from here. Okay. For example, if it is not linked, it will not appear in this report. So this can be an indicator. Okay, if you have, for example, from other reports, 10 or 6 or whatsoever count of group policies, and you don't see them in the linked or the group policy links report, so that means that they are not linked. So this is a good report. We can from it make an inventory or monthly inventory for our linked group policies. This can be a good best practice to make an inventory of our linked GPOs. Okay, this is very good. If we go to the next tab, we have group policy passwords. So what is group policy passwords? Through a group policy, you can change the password for a local user on a certain workstation or a certain server. This can be done using a group policy. Okay, it was before or from not long time ago, this was feasible. You can do this through the group policy. Okay, especially from the preferences section. Okay, but Microsoft have disabled such such a feature because a hacker can, if he view this group policy, he can see the password that you are trying to change, and he can know it. Okay, so Microsoft best practice not to reset password or change passwords for local administrators using the group policy. You can use the labs solution, which is local administrator password solution. This is a good thing, okay, or this is the best practice, not to change any users, local users on machines or workstations or servers using the group policy password preference or through the group policy. This is a security issue. You should not do that. If you need to do that, you can use this or do this using labs local administrator password solution for Microsoft, or you can use a script, okay, and you can apply it to the workstation or to the server, but not through the group policy. So this is one thing we need to focus on. Do not change local user passwords using the group policy. This was stated when I was working with the Purple Knight report. It was stated there. You should not do this because this is not a best practice. Okay, if we go to the next tab, which is sorry, if we go to the group policy permissions analysis, okay, here he is trying to make a comparison between the group policy permissions on the group policy object in the Active Directory database and the permissions of the group policy folders and files in the sysvol folder. He tried to make a comparison between both. Both permissions should be identical. Okay, this should be a good sign, because if there is differences between the permissions of the group policy objects in the Active Directory database and in the sysvol folder, this can be a problem. Okay, when GPO is created, it gets a handful of standard permission. Those are: authenticated users have GPO apply permissions, GPO group policy apply permission, and read permission. Domain admins and enterprise admins with edit, delete, modify permissions, any group policy. Domain admins and enterprise admins can edit and delete and modify the permissions on the group policy. System, which have edit, delete, modify permissions. So this is the default groups or security principles that are put on an GPO when they are created. This is by default. But then IT people change those permissions to their needs. While most changes make sense and are required to be able to target proper group of peoples, some changes are not required or even bad. First, problem related to NT authority authenticated users. When GPO is created, one of the permissions that are required for proper functioning of group policies is NT. This group should be added and should have GPO apply permissions and read permissions. So in an ideal situation, if you need a group policy to be applied to a group of users, or to apply to users, let's first take this situation, to apply it to users, okay, in a certain OU, okay, you need to have authenticated users on the group policy to be able to apply this group policy to the users in the OU. This is an ideal situation. Okay, for example, you have an OU for sales. You have sales users. It's called OU called sales users, and need to apply a group policy to them. So you create the group policy and link it to the sales OU, sales users OU, and this group policy should have authenticated users have on it permission of GPO apply permissions and read permissions, so it can be applied to the users in this sales OU. Okay, in another situation, this could not be the correct configuration. For example, maybe I need to apply a certain group policy at the domain level, not the OU level, and it is targeting uh, a group of users, not all of the authenticated users. So authenticated users are, in technical terms, all of the users that was able to log in to the domain using a correct username and password. So this means everyone. In technical terms, it's called every user. Okay, so in another situation, I need not to apply it to all of the users. I need to apply it to certain group of users. So what if I need to create a group policy and apply it to a group not authenticated users, other group? What should I do? Should I also need to leave authenticated users the same and add the group that I need, group of users that I need to be applied the GPO to, and then that's it? No, this is not the correct answer. You need to remove authenticated users, okay, and then add the group that you need this GPO to be applied to, give it the permissions of GPO apply permissions and read GPO, and then add something called domain computers group and give it read permission on the GPO. If you did not do the last step, the group policy will not be applied. So you need to have a certain configuration. If you have an OU that contains some users and you need to apply a group policy to them, then this group policy should have authenticated users group permissions to it. Okay, this is one situation. Another situation, if you need to apply a group policy on the domain level, okay, on the domain level to a certain group of users, not on the OU level, on the domain level, okay, you can do this not using authenticated users, but to remove this group and put the group that you need and give it the GPO apply permissions and read permissions, and then you should add domain computers and give it read permission on this GPO. If you did not do the last step, it will not apply the GPO. Let's see situations something like that, because if you try from any group policy to remove this group, it will get a warning. You will get a warning from Microsoft saying that if you remove this group, then the group policy will not be applied. You need to add domain uh, computers and give it read permission. This is how you can make the group policy to be applied. So you will add the group policy, or add the users, and then add the domain computers group and give it read permissions. Okay, let's continue. When GPO is created, one of the permissions that are required for proper functioning of group policy is NT-authority authenticated user. Some administrators wouldn't follow best practice and try to remove GPO apply permissions. Remove also GP read permissions from a GPO, which have consequences. On June 14, this is where Microsoft changed the GPO structure application, or the applying a GPO. It was having some system. It was changed. Okay, changes the security context with which user groups policies are retrieved. This by design behavior change protects user customer computers from a security vulnerability. This is the fix, or this is the change. Before MS 16072 is installed, user group policies were retrieved by using the user security context. After this, users group policies are retrieved by using the computer security policy, security context. The computer will retrieve the group policy, or the user's group policy, not the user. Okay, so we don't need authenticated user. You can add the domain computers group and give it the read permission as an alternative. Okay, so let's see. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as it sounds. While checking for permissions mostly works fine, it is possible a group policy has totally removed account permissions from being able to access any of it. The account we are using is also, he's trying to scan for the group policies using my domain admin account. If he was not successful in doing that, he will ask for a user to do so. Anyway, so if you go further and see, this is the first thing we need to make sure. Here is scanning and making sure that all of my group policies have authenticated users in it, and they have GPO apply permissions and read permissions. We can see here we have two that doesn't have this authenticated users in it, and I will tell you why. If you go further, now the next problem related to domain admins, enterprise admins. When GPO is created by default, it gets domain admins, enterprise admins with edit, delete, modify security permissions. For some reason, some administrators remove those permissions or modify them when they should not touch those at all. Since having edit, delete, modify security permissions doesn't affect GPO apply permissions. There is no reason to remove domain admins or enterprise admins from permissions or limit their rights. This is correct. I needed a domain admin to be able to edit the group policies and change them. Okay, so this is better than putting a custom group or putting a user to have permissions on the group policy, and they should be the owners. Okay, again, we have said this in a previous video. So let's continue. Domain admins, enterprise admin have to have either GPO edit modify permissions or at the very least GPO custom permissions. When GPO custom is set, it usually means that there is a mix of allow and deny permissions in place. For example, deny GPO apply. This so he can change, but the group policy is not applied to him. In such case, we are assuming you know what you are doing. However, it is possible to review those permissions as those are marked in the table for review. So it will give us also if all of the group policies have domain admins and enterprise admins have such permissions. Okay, so we can see this is the second problem. The third problem is related when a GPO is created by default, it gets system account with edit, delete, modify security permissions. For some reason, some administrator remove those permissions or modify them when they should not touch those at all. Since having edit, delete, modify security permissions doesn't affect GPO apply permissions, there is no reason to remove system from permissions or limit their rights. By default, maybe the user system needs to have access to the group policy. Maybe it needs it to apply the group policy, maybe, or access the group policy, or whatever reason. This is by default was added by default by the operating system, so we should not touch it. Microsoft can do, if Microsoft doesn't need this user to be added to the group policy, this can be programmed by them, not we should remove it. And there is no security recommendations that says we need to remove this. Okay, so we have safe, or it is safely to leave this account without removing it. Okay, force related to unknown SID. Some groups or users are deleted in an Active Directory, and unfortunately their permissions are not cleaned automatically. Those are left in place and stay there forever until removed. So for example, if you create a group policy to be applied to a certain group and then you remove this group, okay, it will not be removed from the permissions of it will not be removed from the group policy. You need to go and remove it manually. Okay, so again, if you have a group and you add it or give it permissions on a certain group policy, and then this group was removed, okay, the permissions are still there. You need to remove it, go and remove the group from the GPO, okay, from the GPO permissions. I think, but this should be done automatically anyway, but we need to test that. So he's testing for all of the 4 assumptions. He'll try to see that, and he have already 2 that he is seeking, or he says that they have some permissions, authenticated user permissions. We have 2 that doesn't have authenticated user permissions. Let's go and see what are those. Anyway, so we can see from the report, here is the group policy. Okay, and this is the domain, and this is the permission issue. We don't have any permission inconsistency. So first of all, also, even though he checked for certain permissions, and also I think he checked let's see, okay, this is permission and as no permission consistency. Okay, so there is some confusion. GPO permission consistency, it will check permissions between the Active Directory database and the sysball folder. This only check for permissions on the GPOs, I think, in the group policy management console. Okay, because he didn't state the permissions on the sysvol folder or the permissions of the group policy files in the sysvol folder. But I think they should also, these should be on the sysvol folder as well. Anyway, let's go and see what is the problem here. So we can see here, this is a report, all of the group policies, permission issue we don't have. So he have already tested for the 4 assumptions and there is no problem. False, 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 false. This is added, or this group policy, its class, it is a group policy. How I know that? Because it is in a group policy container. Okay, this is the GUID for the group policy. This is the distinguished name or the location in the Active Directory database. The GUID for the group policy, when it was created, when it was changed, all of these. If you go to the next one, we have there is no permission issues. So he's saying here to clarify the situation. Status means GPO had at least one problem with permissions. We don't have this. Means GPO has problem with either domain admins. Okay, no, sorry. This we don't have anything. He's talking about the next one. So if you go further here, here is the another report. So we have three reports. The next report is the GPO, the location, the GUID, status means that a group policy had at least one problem with permissions. True, it means it doesn't have any problems, okay, with the permissions. Administrative, it means GPO has a problem with either domain admins or enterprise admins not having proper permissions. True, it means that the domain admins and enterprise admins have edit and modify and delete permissions. Authenticated users are added, so all of the three are added here. System, also the user of system is added. Unknown, false, there is no unknown group. Okay, by the way, how you know that uh, that a certain group that is added to a GPO was deleted from the Active Directory? If you see this group, not its name, its SID or its GUID. Sorry, it's not the GUID, the SID of the group. If you see the SID of the group, not the name of the group, then this group is removed. So here we don't have this. We have domain admins, we have enterprise admins, and if you continue with the report, we can see that we have authenticated users have GPO apply and read too. Domain admin permissions have GPO edit, delete, modify security, and enterprise admins have the same, and system permissions have the same. Unknown permissions for the group, okay, that if you have a fourth group to be added, we don't have this group, and it's unknown because it appears with its SID, not its name. So we can continue and see here. We can continue with all of the group policies. All of them are green. If we go there, we can see we have two group policies. They false here that we have some issues with the permissions on them. What is this? We don't have the authenticated users, okay, added to this group policy. Why? Because I needed to apply to a certain group, not all of the authenticated users. I needed to apply to certain group of users. So I removed authenticated users from the group policy and added another group, and after that I add domain computers to each one of these group policies and give them read permission on both group policies. If you do not do the last step, the group policy will not be applied. So we can see here is giving some error, but this is normal. And even if you try to remove the authenticated users from any of these groups, he will give you a warning saying that you should add domain computers, give it read permissions so the group policy can be applied. Okay, so we can see here these are the two. As you can see here, we have uh, authenticated user doesn't have any permissions, they are not added, and we have domain admin permissions and enterprise admin permissions and system. So we have everything working, and this is a normal thing. This is a positive alert, or we can say it as fake alert, or it's not a real thing to focus on. Okay, it is a false positive as they try to say. The next thing here, we have all permissions. So we have three reports. The first report is group policy visibility analysis. Okay, you can see here historic visibility analysis, and you have the other one, group policy permission analysis. We can see here, and at the end we have all permissions for each group policy. We can see that, for example, another thing, for example, this is Xeon. We have the computer setting of the group policy disabled. So this is a user group policy. It was created in SAO, in which time modification, it is allowed GPO apply inherited. This is not inherited. I think this is on the domain level. We can know this from the previous report or the top report, and then we can see that we have this applied to users, and the group is called authenticated users. This is the domain authenticated user, and this is the SID, I think, for the group of authenticated users. If we go further, we can see another group policy. So this is the group policy, and we have the different groups with the different permissions on each different permissions on this group policy. Domain admins, GPO edit, modify, and delete. Okay, we have enterprise domain controllers have GPO read. This is very important, because if you don't have this group to have read permissions on the group policy, it will not be replicated to the domain controllers. This should be visible, or should be added. Enterprise domain controllers. So enterprise domain controllers, from its name, it contains all of the domain controllers in the forest, or in the forest as a whole. So they should have read, so they can replicate it. Okay, so this is one good thing. Okay, and we can see NT authority, authenticated users have GPO apply, and we can see, I think, GPO read and GPO apply. I think they should have both, or maybe GPO apply contains the read as well. So you will not be able to apply if you don't have the read permission. Anyway, so we can see the different permissions for the group policies. So I think all of these reports are very good inventory for your group policies. We can see that it contains a lot of useful data. You have permission analysis report, you have the visibility, you have all of the group policies and when they were created and their location, and you have also uh, all of the permissions of the group policies. This is very good. If you have any problems, for example, if you have authenticated users not added to a certain group policy, this can be fixed by some scripts. Let's see. First, you need to install GPO-Zor and then import the commandlets, then prepare the report by using this line of command. And then if you go next, you need to make backup of the group policies before applying any changes. And then this is the commandlet to add authenticated users and give it GPO reads. I think GPO apply to a certain OU, okay, or to the to a certain group policy. Sorry, he will scan and see if there is some group policies that doesn't have authenticated users on it. He will add it by using this command and give it read permissions. Okay, GPO read, I think GPO apply as well. What if? You all know what if. This is to test the commandlet before applying it. If you go further, we will see add group, add administrative group permissions to add domain admins and enterprise admins. This is what I mean by administrative. He will add domain admins and enterprise admins to a GPO and give them GPO edit, delete, and modify. So this is it. And the last one is the permissions for the system. This is well-known administrative, referring to the system user account. Okay, and this is it. And at the end, we have remove unknown permissions. If there is a group appearing as an SID on the permissions of the group policy, then we should remove it because it is not there anymore. So we need to do that. And at the end, we can run the report to verify everything is working correctly. So even though it seems a little bit of a complicated complicated reports, but they are very useful. They will scan for different permissions and different things concerning your group policies. It is very useful and very useful inventory reports. Let's see how much time we have. I will go and try to ask Claude to explain this concept. So here I'm giving him let's see here, it creates entry. Notice this, however, it's not necessarily different. No, this is the permissions of let's wait for a moment. This is not what I'm talking about. This is GPO permissions. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about GPO analysis. Okay, okay, let's see now something here. Okay, I have already, let me do something here, guys. I have already added this command. Let me do something here. If we go to there and there, okay, let's do something here. I will go and tell him to explain. Let me give you something. Explain this concept. Let me show you what I can do here. We have this one, explain, and explain a certain concept. Okay, the context of the text file. Let me first remove all of these. Where is the thing we need to remove? Here you go, there it is. Okay, and we will get, okay, here you go, this is the thing we need to, give him the text of the tab. So let's continue like this one. Okay, 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 here you go. This is, we need to copy that and put it in the Claude example, and then we should have a space, and then we can go and continue copying another things here. Second problem, I need to take the text just to make it simple for Claude to explain the concept itself. So if you go there and also Control V, and we have another thing here, then we can go and get the third problem. So this is to tell him to make a good scenario concerning explaining this topic. Okay, so we will go there and add something like that, and then Shift Enter, and then we go to the fourth one. Okay, which is this one. Okay, copy, and then go like that, and let me see something here, and add this one, and now we have everything up and running. Okay, here you go, and let's try to see how he will explain this topic. Okay, so here you go. Okay, we can see here that he's talking about let me explain group policy permissions in a way that's easy to understand using a real-world scenario that you might encounter as a junior IT administrator. Imagine that you are managing a large office building. The group policy system is like the building security and rules management systems. Is like the building security and rules management system, where the building itself is your Active Directory domain. The security guards are your domain admins, enterprise admins. Electronic key card system represents the system account. The employees are your authenticated users. Real world scenario. Let's say you are tasked with creating an OGPO to enforce password policies for the accounting department. Here is how the permission system works and what you need to watch for. Okay, default permission. The foundation, uh, when you create this password policy, Windows automatically set up the essential security guards, okay, which are enterprise admins and domain admins. Authenticated users get read and apply access GPO. Domain and enterprise admin gets full control. The system gets full control. Uh, think of this like setting up a new secure area in your building where all employees can enter and follow the rules. Authenticated users, security managers can modify the security setting, domain admins, the building security system can manage itself. System. Common pitfall, the authenticated user's mistake. Let's say you're trying to make GPO more secure and you will think I will remove authenticated users to lock this down. This is like removing the basic employee access card credentials from the building security system. After this security update, this would break your GPO because before this fix, Blee tries to badge in system checks their individual credentials. After this, system checks the computer credentials first. So I have told you the situation how we can fix something like that. If you are removed the authenticated user, it's like telling the security system do not trust any employee badges at all. The proper approach is to keep authenticated users but control access through security group filters. Well, this can be done. It is removed actually from the security filter. So the authenticated users are adding in the group security filters. You should remove that and add the group that you need plus the domain computers group and give it read permissions. Common pitfalls, the admin removal or admin rights removal. Imagine you are removing domain admin's permission thinking like the local IT team only needs access. 6 months later, during an emergency, your senior domain admins can't fix a critical GPO because they have lost access. Always keep domain admins' permissions intact. They are your emergency access system. Okay. Common pitfalls. Scenario 3, the system account lockout. Think of system account as the building master control system. If you remove its permissions, it's like disconnecting the security system from its own control panel. The system needs these permissions to function properly. Uh, Common pitfall scenario 4, the ghost permission. Let's say an employee leaves the company and their Active Directory account is deleted. If they had special GPO permissions, they don't automatically disappear. It's like having access card in the system belonging to employee who no longer work there. These ghost permissions can cause confusion and potential security issues. Best practice, never remove authenticated user. Instead, use security filter if you need to restrict GPO application. Okay? Actually, the security filter contains the authenticated users. Okay, so this is one. Keep domain admin, enterprise admin permission intact. Do not modify system accounts, permissions. Regular audit your GPOs for unknown SID. A safe approach for restricting GPO access. If you need to limit who can use a GPO, keep authenticated user with read permissions. Use security filter to add specific groups who should receive the policy. This is tricky because authenticated users are in the filter. So you need to add it and add another group and add the domain computers group and give it read permissions to fix something like that. Never remove domain admins, document any changes. So as we see here, simple and easy. Let's ask it to do something. Let's ask it to give us exercises how to solve this issue design. Okay, let's get this one. Control C, and we can get it some exercises to explain this topic. Let's see if you will get uh, the things we need. So here is some exercises we can read the answer here. Okay. Okay, so we can get further. Here you go. There is it. Okay, and out loud.
Copy. Retry. Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. 3.5 Sonnet. Explanatory. Let me design a comprehensive set of hands-on exercises for learning GPO permissions management. These exercises will help you build practical skills progressively while understanding the security implications of each action. Required environment. A test Active Directory domain controller. Windows Server 2016 or later. At least one member workstation. Domain administrator access. GPO management tools installed. Exercise 1. Understanding default GPO permissions objective. Learn to identify and interpret default GPO permissions assigned when creating a new GPO. Scenario. Your organization needs a new GPO to configure screensaver settings. You'll create this GPO and examine its default permissions. Steps. Open Group Policy Management Console, gpmc.msc. Create a new GPO named Corporate Screensaver Policy. Right-click the new GPO and select Delegation. Document the default permissions you observe, focusing on NT Authority / Authenticated Users, Domain Admins, Enterprise Admins, System Account, Verification. Confirm that authenticated users have read and apply group policy permissions. Verify domain admins and enterprise admins have full control. Check that system has full control. Expected outcome. Understanding of the default security model for new GPOs and the purpose of each permission set. Exercise 2. Working with authenticated users permissions objective. Learn the impact of MS 16-072 and proper handling of authenticated users permissions. Scenario. You've inherited a GPO where someone removed authenticated users permissions entirely. You need to fix this while maintaining security. Steps. Create a new test GPO named TestAuth Users Policy. Configure a simple setting, e.g., desktop background color. Remove authenticated users completely. Test policy application on a workstation. Add back authenticated users with only read permissions. Add your test security group with apply group policy. Test policy application again. Verification.
This is not a correct assumption. If you need to have another security group to have apply permissions and read permissions, you should not add authenticated users to have read. You add this security group and give it read and apply, and add domain computers and give them read. So the correct sequence, you will remove authenticated users and add domain computers group, give it read permissions, and add your security group, the one that you need to apply this group policy to instead of the authenticated users, give them apply and read permissions. Okay, so this is the correct sequence. This is not correct, okay, because I have done this before, okay, and I have already in 2016 I have this encountered, and it was solved by this step to add the security group, give them read and apply group policy, and add domain computers and give them read permissions. Okay, you will see that also a warning when you remove authenticated users, you will have what I was talking about written in front of you. Okay.
Verification. Run pre-salt / are on the workstation. Check if policy applies correctly after each change. Document any errors in policy application. Expected outcome. Understanding why authenticated users must have at least read permissions and how to properly restrict GPO application using security filtering. Exercise 3. Troubleshooting unknown SIDS objective. Learn to identify and clean up orphan permissions in GPOs. Scenario. You've discovered a GPO with unknown SIDS in its permissions list. Steps. Create a test user account named tempadmin. Create a new GPO, test orphan SID policy. Add special permissions for tempadmin. Delete the tempadmin account from AD. Observe the resulting unknown SID. Use PowerShell to identify and clean up the orphan permission. PowerShell. Copy. Hashtag get GPO permissions showing unknown SIDS test orphan SID policy. Include permission type GPO edit hashtag remove unknown sits or permission in test orphan SID policy. Type unknown. Verification. Review the GPO's delegation tab to confirm the unknown SID is removed. Exercise 4. Restoring administrative access objective. Learn to recover from accidentally
Just a moment,
removed
guys.
administrative permissions.
So let's continue, guys.
Permissions. Scenario. A GPO has lost its domain admin's permissions and needs to be restored. Steps. Create a new GPO test admin restore policy. Remove domain admin's permissions. Use PowerShell to restore proper administrative access. PowerShell. Copy. Add GPO's or permission to a name test admin restore policy. Type administrative. Verification. Check that domain admins and enterprise admins have proper permissions restored. Exercise 5. Security audit practice objective. Learn to audit and document GPO permissions across your domain. Scenario. You need to generate a report of all GPOs with non-standard permissions. Steps. Create several test GPOs with various permission configurations. Run a comprehensive permissions audit. PowerShell. Copy. Hashtag generate HTML report of GPO permissions invoke or type GPO permissions. File path C /temp /GPO audit HTML. Hashtag review specific permission issues get or permission consistency type inconsistent. Verification. Review the generated report and identify any permission issues. Exercise 6. Implementing least privilege access objective. Learn to implement secure GPO permissions while maintaining functionality. Scenario. Configure a GPO with minimal required permissions for a specific department. Steps. Create a new GPO HR security policy. Keep authenticated users.
So here this is not correct. Okay, you will remove the authenticated users group. You will add the HR group. Okay, give them read and apply permissions, and add the domain computers group and give them read permissions instead of the authenticated users. Okay, so he's saying here, as we can see, so this is not a correct example.
Users read only. Add HR security group for policy application. Verify system and admin permissions remain intact. Test policy application for HR group members, non-HR users, administrative accounts, verification. Confirm policy applies only to HR group members. Verify administrators can still edit the GPO. Check that non-HR users can read but not apply the policy. Bonus challenge. Batch permission remediation objective. Automate the fix for multiple GPOs with permission issues. Create a script that identifies GPOs missing critical permissions, generates a report of issues found, automatically remediates common problems, creates a before/after comparison report. This advanced exercise tests your PowerShell skills and understanding of GPO permissions management at scale. Each exercise builds upon the previous ones, helping you develop a comprehensive understanding of GPO permissions management while practicing real-world scenarios you might encounter in your IT career.
So this is a good example. Let me show you here again. We need to explain this topic, but using a dialogue between a senior IT and a junior IT. If we get this, and try to make it control C, and then give it this prompt to a Claude again. Let's see if he will give us a good example. So let's read and see what he is talking about. Okay, let's focus on GPO permission fundamentals. Can you explain to me in your own words what happens when a GPO is created in terms of permissions and why these default permissions are important? Try to use an analogy that makes sense to you. Okay, I will try. So when you create a GPO, it's like a kind of setting up a new secure room in an office building. By default, it comes with three main types of access. Regular employees, authenticated users get basic access. They can enter and follow rules. Build managers, domain admins, enterprise admin get full control. They can change the room setting. The building security system account gets also full control. We have seen this example before. It's a kind of the right way to think about it. Yes, okay, that's a good start. I like your building analogy. Let me expand on and clarify a few points in your analogy. Could you explain what might happen if someone removed the regular employee's access entirely? This relates to MS1607 update mentions in your documentation. I think if we remove authenticated user, it would be like removing everyone basic building access. So even if someone should be allowed in, they couldn't get in because their basic credentials aren't recognized. I remember reading something about MS16072 changing how the computer checks permissions, but I am not entirely sure how it works. An excellent start. Let me clarify this further. You are on the right track with your understanding. The MS16072 update made a crucial change to how GPOs are processed. Before this update, imagine each player using their own ID card to check if they can enter the room. Now, after the update, it's like the computer, the security system checks first using ITS credentials before letting them go in. Let me show you something here because we need to see this fix, or let me show you uh, the uh, the documentation concerning this fix. Here you go. This is it. Let's go open it in. Okay, this is very critical because uh, this uh, is very critical on how group policies are applied. Okay, more info. Okay, cumulative symptoms. All user group policies, including those that have been security filtered on user accounts or security groups or both, may fail to apply on domain joined computers. This issue occurs if the computer object is missing the read permissions for authenticated users group, or if you are using security filtering and missing read permissions for the domain computers group. So here it is. Okay, here is the cause. So this is how you can fix it. Okay, authenticated users should have read, or domain computers should have read. If we try to ask Copilot to summarize this, will, even though it's very simple, but let's summarize, create a summary. Okay, here this to fix, okay, resolves a vulnerability in Microsoft Windows that could allow elevation of privilege through a man-in-the-middle attack. Important note, future updates for Windows so and so, okay, need to be installed. This is already expired. Known issues, the update changes security context for retrieving user group policies, which may cause some policies to fail to apply. To resolve issues, add authenticated users group with read permissions on the group policy object, or add the domain computers with read permissions if you are using security filtering. That's it. If you have uh, other groups than authenticated users and give them or to apply to them this group policy, you should give them read or give them apply group policy and add computers group, okay, to have read permission. So this is how you can solve the issue. This can be installed so and so. Anyway, this is already included in the newer versions of Windows. Okay, so if we go further and read uh, the rest of the assumption, this is why removing authenticated users break things. The computer itself needs to be able to read the GPO first. Let's do a quick practical demonstration. Would you like to be willing to create a GPO test in your lab environment and try removing authenticated users completely? You can observe what happens. Sure, I can try this. I will create a GPO called test remove authenticated user, but wait. Should I keep read permission? This is not needed. You should add computers or domain computers group and give them read permission. I'm a bit nervous about removing it. Okay, I need this. Let's excellent cautious thinking. Let's turn this into a learning experiment. Let's do it in steps. First, create a GPO and document default permissions you see. Then remove authenticate users permissions. Try to apply the GPO to a test computer. Add back just read permissions. Test again. Okay, read permissions so and so. Read it. Okay. Uh, this is the explanation of the exercise. I think it's very simple. You don't need to go further explaining this. So I will stop with you guys in a moment and return back. So let's continue, guys. I think here we don't need to explain further because it's very, very simple. And we can go to the next section, which is the sysvol netlogin files. As you can see here, this is also another report for making inventory concerning the sysvol and netlogin folders. We know the sysvol contains the group policies that will be applied to the domain, and the sysvol folder contains a subfolder called netlogin. This is the share name that contains the scripts that will be applied to the users on the login process. Okay, so here is something like an inventory. We can see here there is some explanations. Here is the location, sysvol policy definitions. This is a folder in the sysvol that contains the group policy templates. Okay, this is it, and we can see the extension, suggested action if there is action to be taken, skip assessment. So he verifies them as a valid file to be in this location. Suggested action comments, most likely ADMX templates. So this is like a scan and verification to the file belongs to GPO false. This is not a GPO file or a GPO folder. This is the folder for the GPO templates. Okay, this is not a real GPO. This is the template of the GPO. We can see this is the size, and I think this is in maybe in kilobytes maybe. So this is in megabyte, this is in kilobytes, this is archive, creation, last time, access last time, or last write time. So if you go and see one of these files called ADM, which is a, a template or group policy template, but this is an old version of the group policy templates or an old extension for the group policy templates. It's not used anymore, and it is recommended not to use any group policy templates with the extension of .adm. Okay, so here he doesn't recognize it. He only recognizes the ADMX or verify the ADMX templates, okay, or group policy that are ADMX extension. He is not verifying that, not able to auto-assess, he doesn't know them, and there is a recommendation not to use these extensions anymore. So you can use ADMX only. Okay, if you go further, we can see these are also policy definitions. If you go further, policy definitions, ADM need to be assessed. We go to policy definitions. If you go to the next one, all of these are group policy definitions. If we go further and further and further, these are all group policy definitions, we will come to a certain step where we will see the group policy folders themselves. If you go further, if you go further, next, I think because there is a lot of group policy templates. If we go further, so this is a very, very good documentation for the contents of your sysvol folder. This is good if there is any corruption or any backup recovery you need to do. This will be a good guidelines to the numbers and the type of files in your sysvol folders. If you continue, we can go further and further and further. If we go now and continue, these are policy definitions. Let me show you when he will begin counting the group policy. here you go. This is sysvol policy. So this is a policy, and uh, from its GUID we can know which group policy name. Okay, but here okay, he's giving the display. This is the Xeon group policy, and this is the GUID for the group policy, and these are the actual files of the Xeon group policy. Okay, in the group policy management console, we can see the logical parts of this group policy. These are the physical parts of the group policy. If we continue, we can see here this is correctly placed in sysvol folder, so we are good to go. All of these are group policies, sysvol policies. We can see correctly placed in sysvol, so there is no corruption, there is no problem with it, or its location is true. It belongs to a GPO, and this is the GPO, and we can see the size in megabyte, the size in kilobyte, attributes. Okay, there is no need for verification. If we continue, these are the group policies. Now we can see something here very strange. Before that, he didn't recognize the .adm group policy templates, but now when he was checking the group policy folders itself, he have seen something like .adm policies. He need to delete them, most likely legacy ADM files or legacy group policy files. So he is recommended to delete them. Okay, not to use group policy templates.adm and not to create group policy with the .adm extension. Okay, so I think here we need to delete them or do not contain any .adm files. If we continue next, now we can go further. These are all the group policies, and he will count actually also the scripts in the net login folder. If you will continue, let's go further and further. .adm need consider deleting. So if you continue further, let's continue and go. And we can continue 81, then 82. These are all group policies, and he's giving the name of the group policy. At the end, we will see only one file in the net login folder, okay, which is its actual name. This is the share name. The actual name is scripts. Require verification. He didn't know this is .bat, okay, script. This is to apply certain setting to my users when they log in to the domain. So here is, this is, I think, a very, very good inventory file or report. You can export it to Excel, CSV, PDF. So very, very good thing. And actually, he can give you the commands to list. So we can know the commands to list, something like that. So this is the report. But to run the report or to get this data, there is the commands that can do that. I think something like get GPOs or file, something like this one. So anyway, this is a very, very good exercise, or very, very good inventory. If we go to the next one, which is group policy blocked inheritance, here is seeking to see if there is any blocking you have done to a certain group policy, okay? Because the blocking doesn't always work as intended. For example, if you block a group policy, maybe you have done this and you remember that, but after a certain amount of time, maybe after long time, you don't remember doing that, so someone comes and says that a group policy is not applied, so you begin troubleshooting and you don't remember that you have blocked this group policy from the start. So this is one thing to give you if there is any users and computers affected due to block inheritance. He will give you the users and computers affected by the blocked inheritance. By default, the group policy settings that are linked to parent objects are inherited to child objects. If you have a group policy on a parent object, it will be applied to the child objects, or a parent OU, it will be applied to the children or child OU. By default, the domain policy is linked to the domain and it is inherited to all child objects. That's correct. If you are linking a GPO to the domain level, it will be applied to all of the domain structure, OUs and child OUs, okay? So, does any another policy link it to the top level OU? Block inheritance. A GPO can be inherited by default. They can also be blocked if required using block inheritance. If the block inheritance setting is enabled, the inheritance of group policy setting is blocked. Okay, This setting is most likely used when the OU contains users or computers that require different setting than what is applied to the domain level. So I have a certain group policy on the domain level. You don't need to be applied to all of the OUs and their children. You need it to be applied, or some OUs to be excluded. So you block this policy to be applied to a certain OU. This some situation, maybe this OU contains different or special users that have special setting and special configuration. So maybe you need to do something like that. But make sure that you document this and remember that correctly. Okay, this setting is mostly used when the OU contains user computer that require different setting than what is applied to the domain level. Unfortunately, blocking inheritance can have serious security consequences. As it stands currently, there is 0 organizations with GPO inheritance block. Out of 0 are marked as excluded. So we don't have any OUs or any group policies that are blocked. Okay, if you need to remove OU GPO inheritance block, this can be done, but first you need to import GPO Zohr commandlets and then prepare the report to run to get this data. And then if you need to remove, I think here this will be done manually. Removing inheritance are quite trivial and can be done from GPO GPO or Group Policy Management Console interface. So it doesn't have a script to do that. Okay, and then the verification, you can done this or do this again. So very, very simple and very, very easy way to identify problems. If you have a problem concerning some group policies not applied, you need to run this report to say maybe there is some group policies that are blocked from inheritance. Maybe it's a problem with a child or you that doesn't have a group policy applied to it because there is a block inheritance on the parent or you. Okay, so this is also a good way to identify problems. Group policy content, another very, very useful inventory for your group policies, but not by the name or not by the count, but by the content. So we can see here, if I need, for example, to know what group policy contains setting concerning the control panel, I can just click on control panel and I see I have advanced users group policy and default users group policy. They have some setting concerning the control panel. If we see the setting, for example, I need for advanced users to have their control panel to display certain items like display icon from Microsoft, date and time, default programs icon, control panel, and Microsoft Mail. So these are some icons. This is a group policy to limit the number of items a user can access in the control panel. So this is very, very useful. We have a lot of steps. For example, if I need to know what group policy, for example, set the event log maximum size or file size, here as you go, I can see this is configured on the default domain policy, and we can see here the size. So he's giving also the configuration of the group policy. Okay, here we can see this is the maximum size. We can see this is for he doesn't say, because actually this is for a couple of log files. Specify the maximum log size. Okay, this is for the security log, this is for the application and system, but this is not listed here anyway. So this is also a good way to know the group policy by the content. For example, I need also again to have group policies that are applying certain restrictions to the Google Chrome. If I go there, I can see I have my default domain policy and default users group policy having some Chrome rules to be applied. Okay, we can see, for example, block YouTube. Very, very simple and very, very useful report you can use and document it every monthly. So I prefer to run the whole GPO Zohr report monthly because it contains a lot of useful diagnostic data and a useful inventory data. You can do this regularly and you'll be very, very, this can be a very, very organized documentation and inventory for your group policies. And at the end, if we see net login owners, this is from its name, it's very, very simple. Net login is a folder that contains the scripts, login scripts that will be applied to the users when they log in. This folder should have an owner, which are the local administrator of the domain controller. NetLogin is a crucial part of Active Directory. Files stored are available on each and every computer or server in the company. Okay. Keeping those files clean and secure is very important task. It's important that NetLogin file owners are set to be built-in administrators. So the owner of this folder, NetLogin, which it is under Sysvol folder, the owner should be the administrator. Owners have full control over the file object. Current owner of the file may be an administrator, but it doesn't guarantee that he or she will be in the future. That's why, as best practice, it's recommended to change any non-administrative owner to built-in administrator. So it is recommended not to give the ownership to an individual, okay, to a group or a custom group, Active Directory group, okay, or a custom user account. You should give it to the built-in administrator's local group on the domain controller. So this is a good thing, and I think sometimes maybe if changing this can affect the application or the implementation of the login script. So you need to make sure that the permissions are set correctly on the net login folder. Okay, very, very simple. As we can see here also from the report, status is okay. We can see here that the owner is the built-in administrators, well-known administrators. You can also run the report to get this data. Set non-compliant file owners to built-in. So if you have any owner different than the built-in administrators, you can fix that by using this command, repair GPO net login owner. So you can do this and apply it, and it will be fixed for you. So very, very simple explanation, and you can run the report again to verify the fixing. The last one in the report, which is net login permissions. NetLogin is a crucial part. We have seen this file stored. Each file stored on NetLogin has its own permissions. NetLogin contains scripts and something. So each file under this NetLogin has its own permission. It's important that crucial permissions are at full control. Modify or write permissions are only applied to proper trusted group of users. Additional permissions for control, modify or write should not be granted to direct users or computers, only groups allowed. So he is saying that he's checking the permissions. I have my computer.bat. This is the only script in this folder. As we can see here, we can see the permissions, who has the access to this folder. We have authenticated users. They should have read permission on this folder so they can apply the script. This is good. We can see here another recommendation not to put individual users, grant groups, and we can see authenticated users. If you remember the group policy permission analysis report, we can see authenticated users have permission to read and apply on the GPO in the group policy management console and on the group policy files, actual files in the sysvol folder, and also the scripts. So we can see authenticated users have read and apply. Okay, we can see this is a well-known group, foreign security principle, read, execute, and synchronize. So this is also a good way to modify or to see the permissions on this folder. Built-in server operators, we can see here that they have read and execute. So this is good. All of this are allowed or normal users and or normal groups. We can see built-in administrators have full control. So all of these have read and execute, which is basically correct. We can see the size of the file, which is I think 74 kilobyte, maybe, or less than that. So we can see this is a very, very good also thing, because the permissions, sometimes one of the important things some users doesn't have certain scripts applied to them, maybe because, for example, you don't have authenticated users have read permission on the computer.bat file or on the net login folder. So I think also the authenticated user should have read permissions on the net login folder. So this is a good way to have an inventory of the permissions on the net login folder and its sub files. Okay, I think Status not assessed, not assessed. He's saying okay, okay. Anyway, so next, prepare the report. Remove permissions manually for non-compliant users and groups. If you see anything that is not correct, you need to uh, remove them manually. By the way, a hacker can add, modify permissions on these files or folders to give him extra access or block or to corrupt the implementation of the script. So if you can go further, now we have the verification. So as you can see here, we have permission okay, read and execute. So we can see we don't have any thing not normal. So by this or verifying this tab, we have reached the end of the analyzation of the GPO ZOR report. In the upcoming video, we will discuss how we can or how we can use the event viewer, which is one of the most important tools to troubleshoot and diagnose problems concerning the Windows operating system and all of its applications, including Active Directory, including group policies, including a lot of things. So stay tuned until we discuss this topic in the upcoming videos. God will. Hope this video is informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.